Once you have a text animation that you like, saving it as a preset is very easy. But there are a few things you have to keep in mind, so I'll show you a couple of examples. In this case, I started with a preset and I made a few changes. If I was to make a preset now, only a few keyframes are selected. I'm not sure if I would be saving everything I need to save. So let's twirl up our layer, and we'll twirl up the waveform as well. And we'll press UU so we can see all of the changes that have been made to the text. Now this preset started with 2 animators, so I'll probably want to include those, but I don't want to include the regular position value. If I do include it in my preset, whenever I apply that preset to another piece of text, it will always be positioned at this value. Now I did make a couple of changes to more options, the grouping alignment and inter-character blending, so I definitely want to include more options. If I was to include source text in the preset, when I apply that preset in the future, it would replace not just all of the values in the character and paragraph panels, but the actual text itself. So unless you have a very good reason to save source text, I almost always leave that out. For now, more options and the 2 animators are the only parameters I want to save. Remember, I can't save the value of motion blur because that's a switch. Once you're ready to save your preset, you'll find the option under a number of different menus. Under the Animation menu, you can select Save Animation Preset. Also, if you select the Options menu for Effects and Presets, you'll find Save Animation Preset here as well. But I think the easiest way is to click on the Create New Animation Preset button at the bottom of the panel. When you select it, you'll probably be looking at either the User Presets folder or the last folder that you saved a preset in. Now, if you'd like the preset to appear in the Effects and Presets panel, it's very important that you save it in one of 2 places. The first place is the User Presets folder, and that's found inside the Documents folder, and it's one of the default places that After Effects creates. I have an alias here though. If I double-click that alias, I'll jump to the Presets folder that's inside the After Effects folder that's inside the Applications folder. I usually prefer to save it in the main Presets folder. But first I'll make a new folder, and I'll call it Trish Presets. Click Create, and now any preset I save in here will be in its own folder called Trish Presets in the Effects and Presets panel. I tried to give my presets a useful name because whatever name I pick, those words can be used to search on. So let's say I'm always going to remember this as the Jazz It Up animation. I'll also add that it's using rotation and scale, as these might be words I could search on. Once I click Save, the Effects and Presets panel will refresh and everything gets twirled up. So I'll twirl down Animation Presets, and at the bottom I have Trish Presets. And there's the preset I've just saved. So now that you have a sense of how you can take a preset, edit it, and save it as your own animation, let's go back and revisit an animation we did earlier. And I'll show you a few other things to keep in mind. I'll return to the Project panel, and I'll open the composition called 10 Save Preset. You might remember this animation. We did this earlier where we had text on a path, we had an effect, we had some tracking and blur and so on. I tweaked it just the way I like it, and I'd like to save it as a preset. So I'll do the same thing again. I'll select my layer, press UU to reveal all the parameters that I've changed, and I can decide what I want to include in the preset. If I save Path Options, notice it's using Mask 1, so I'll want to include the mask in the preset. The Animator 1 goes without saying. Here's my mask, and here's my effect. Now sometimes when you press UU, you won't see the effects because you may not have changed any of the parameters. If that's the case, you can press Shift-E to reveal any effects that are applied so you can select them. Now that I have the big picture of everything I've done to this layer, I can just save Animator 1, in which case I would be saving the tracking animation and the blur, but I would not be saving this mask and the path options. So as you can see, you can be quite selective in what you want to save. I might want to save this animation preset as tracking plus blur. Then I might decide I want another version that includes the path options and the mask, and also the radial shadow effect. So you get the idea, you can be quite selective or all-inclusive. Notice that I'm not saving the source text, because I don't want the words the mystery of light to be included. But let's say I really like this font, I like the color and so on. In that case, I could include the source text. But whenever I do that, I always make sure that I say in my animation preset that it includes the source text. I might even make two variations, one with and one without. If you're confused about what you can save in a preset, it's worth remembering that if you can copy and paste it, you can save it in a preset. And that's why things like switches and blending modes can't be saved in a preset, because you can't copy and paste the values.